Happy Sunday, Wiley here, checking in live. You're watching the Wiley Report, or my version of it, the Sunday mini report. This past week, I went to 4S in Seattle, and the conference. I presented with the Archive Refuses Black Trans Men and Digital Visibility. I presented that on Friday, and it went well. It was my first time attending 4S. It's the Society of the Social Studies of Science. I first learned about it in a professor by the name of Dr. Brooklyn Gibson. I took her Race and Digital Studies course, and she was telling me about a reading group with students that were out of Berkeley, University of Berkeley. And so I joined their reading group, and that's how I found out about 4S. So that was probably 2023. So my point is that I met some of those members of that reading group at the conference. We haven't really participated a lot, or it hasn't really been meeting since probably 2024. It kind of ended, or I'll say took on other forms, perhaps because a lot of the facilitators, they were writing their dissertation on fellowships elsewhere. So it was nice to meet the people that you initially met. And like I said, the conference, the Social Studies of Science 4S, it's an interdisciplinary conference. I'd say topically it's technology, information science, medicine, law, policy, biology, gender women studies. And that was just because the conference met September the 3rd through the 6th at the Seattle Grand Hotel in downtown Seattle, the Sheraton Grand. And also, it had meetings on 3 floors in that hotel and at this other area called the Summit. It had 1 or 2 floors of meetings. And I don't know how many people attended, but it made me feel, as a person that was new to a conference, like being a guppy in the ocean. They were very nice, but that's how it felt. Would I go back? Yeah, I would go back. It was a lot of great talks, so I appreciated learning today that they had recorded some of them. I don't know how many, because there was a Zoom option too. Um, so it said on the link this morning that the recordings will be available to October the 7th. So that gives me a chance to go back and see some, because there were some that I didn't get a chance to go to because other talks were going on. Being a person that studies race, digital studies, intersectionality, there probably were maybe 5 that related to that topic specifically. But they did have meetups, which was something that was new to me to experience with different groups. So they had a meetups for Black STS, they had a meetup for queer STS, they had a meetup for the students, they also had a meetup for queer, trans, BIPOC faculty, and other interest type related groups. They had meetups that you could, go to the room and meet others. So that was cool, and like I said, it was nice. I didn't feel alone. My other committee member, Dr. Travis, was presenting, and I saw some colleagues and former information science doctoral students that are now professors such and such at institutions like Dr. Ying Han. She was on my panel. I spoke after her and Dr. Karen Wickett. And I think there was another person on their panel whose name was Han as well. And that's at affiliated with the University of Denver. So it was a great time, a great conference. I got back today because my flight got to O'Hare at 9 o'clock, and there wasn't a shuttle to take me to Champaign. Sometimes I think that it's a good idea that I don't fly back directly to Champaign, and then sometimes it can be varied. And that's because also sometimes I'm like analyzing the cost. Like, does it make sense to pay extra to fly back to Champaign. And the reason that I had the funds for the air travel and didn't have to pay for, and when I say funds, meaning I didn't have to pay it out of pocket myself, was there was another conference that I was supposed to attend in April called What is Research, that was by or was the University of Portland, yeah, but they canceled it. So I was able to use the credit, and now that was an actual ticket that I had bought, like from CMI to Portland and back. But when I tried looking to see if I could like change it to go from CMI to Seattle, they were adding like $800 plus, whether you did it as a one way or whatever. And at the time, adding more money to it just felt like, nah, let's see what you'll get if you just go from Seattle to O'Hare to Seattle and back. And even when I looked later to try to see if I could change it, because my wife came and she's in Baltimore, and she had changed her ticket back because I think they had offered, I think they gave like vouchers because she was leaving like much later than my flight that was leaving at 3 o'clock. And so she was able to leave at 10, and she got back to Baltimore at 4 o'clock. I was on plane at that point. And then you get to O'Hare and it's 9 o'clock, and it's also waiting on your bag. And I got to the hotel Sonesta at like it was 10:45, close to 11 o'clock. Realistically, yeah. So I don't know. I asked myself this morning when I was up early, because I'm always afraid I'm going to be late. And I got up. I barely slept, and I got up because like I said, I got there close to 11 o'clock, and then I got me something to eat, the McDonald's, and it was nearby, and I got that, and then I laid down, and I got up at 4:40 because I was just like, I knew my Peoria charter left at 7 o'clock, so I needed to be there at least by 6:50 something, 6:45, and because it's in this it's like the rental car area facility, I was thinking um that the shuttle needed to take me back to Terminal 5. But when I talked to him, the guy that was driving this morning, and he said, what airline? Because apparently they drop you to whatever airline you're flying at, whatever that's associated with that terminal. And I said, I'm not flying out of the airline. I said, I'm just trying to get to the facility that has the Peoria charter. He said, oh, no problem. He was like, you don't have to go. He was explaining to me, you don't have to go to the airport. I'll just take you. And I was like, okay. He had to say it twice because I wasn't awake. And I also was like, I don't know who. I'm just trying to get the Peoria charter. I don't. And literally, he drove us out of the hotel, and when he got to the stop sign, there was the facility right there. So I was like, oh, that's what he meant when he said you don't have to go all the way to the Terminal 5 and then ride the train back. And I literally got off the bus and walked across the street and sat there. You know what time I was there? 5:45. Ming, I grew up with parents that are teachers and ministry leaders, and my father, he's his past, but he used to always say, "When you're on time, you're late." So that's always in my mind. I'm like, oh my God. Ugh. And I had a friend that used to tease me about being on time. Because I was not just on time, I was before time. So yeah, I sat there, I charged my phone up a little bit, and then the bus showed up at like 6:35. The bus showed up at 6:35. There might have been 10 people on that bus. Maybe 10. And it was a straight shot, which I appreciated. I was like, oh, okay, good. Because normally when I've ridden that bus, it goes to Midway and it goes to two of the mall of the areas, Oakbrook and Wood something, another place, and then Champaign. So I appreciated the straight shot, listening to music and napping. So that's my spiel on 4S, the mini version. Maybe I'll have more to say later. I don't know. It was fine. I mean, I think the biggest challenge on presentation day was that the room they had us set up in was not set up for AV. So they were trying to figure out which room we could be put in. Then they actually put us in the room. We didn't start on time. And I've had different experiences at conferences where when you're on panels, they have like moderators that kind of like say, well, you only have 12 to 15 minutes or give you a time. These particular people did not do that. So some people were like given 20, 50. It felt like it could have been. It could have been lesser, but it felt like some people at the beginning gave 20, 25-minute talks. But we were supposed to be there from 1:30 to 3:20. So by the time you got to toward the end, the present where I was at, it was running into the break. And I always feel like when you run into the break and it's Friday, I'm always like, will people really be listening? Because you're battling, I've been listening to talks all day. Did they eat? And they just want to get their coffee, and they serve, brownies and cookies. And it's kind of like when I've gone to a conference and they put me right before lunch. I, I feel like you're really devoted if you listen at that point. But people were there. I'm just saying, I was just like, when you run into the break time, I don't know. But it went fine. So I enjoyed attending. And hey, that was a conference. Thanks for listening. Have a good day. Bye.